Ever wonder what truly sets wise people apart? Studies show wisdom can reduce stress, improve health, and even lengthen your life. When we think of wisdom, we often imagine age, experience, or intellect. But true wisdom, timeless, grounded wisdom, has little to do with how old you are or how much you know. It's about how you live. And few philosophies capture this better than Stoicism. Born in ancient Greece and refined by Roman thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, Stoicism teaches us how to think clearly, act deliberately, and live meaningfully, no matter the chaos around us. In this video, we'll explore 7 habits of truly wise people, habits deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy that you can begin applying today. So, let's dive in. Habit number 1. Master emotional control. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most famous Stoic emperor, ruled over one of the most powerful empires in history. But his greatest battles weren't fought on the battlefield. They were internal. In his private journal, he reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That one line reveals the heart of Stoic emotional mastery, because wisdom isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to navigate emotion with clarity. Wise people still get angry. They feel sadness, anxiety, frustration. But they don't let those emotions define their choices. Most of us don't realize how often we're ruled by emotion. Someone cuts us off in traffic. We rage. A coworker criticizes us. We spiral into self-doubt or defensiveness. Our plans change unexpectedly. We react with frustration. The wise person pauses. They ask, "What exactly am I feeling right now? And more importantly, is this feeling useful?" Emotions are data, not commands. And when we treat them as information rather than orders, we begin to reclaim power over our responses. One powerful Stoic practice is journaling. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for an audience. It was never meant to be published. It was a way to process thoughts and emotions at the end of each day. This habit helps create space between feeling and action. That space is where wisdom lives. Another method, the view from above technique. Imagine yourself looking down on your life from the clouds. Suddenly, the moment you're angry about seems smaller. You see the bigger picture. You remember, this too will pass. Wise people don't suppress emotions. They don't pretend nothing bothers them. Instead, they train themselves, day after day, to become observers of their emotions. They study them. They learn from them. And then they act from reason, not impulse. The result, emotional freedom. And that's one of the greatest signs of wisdom, not just controlling your mind, but choosing how to live, regardless of what life throws at you. Habit number 2, embrace stillness and solitude. "It is in solitude," wrote Seneca, "that the mind gains strength and learns to lean upon itself." In our hyper-connected world, solitude is often misunderstood. It's confused with loneliness or isolation. But for the Stoic and for the wise, solitude is sacred. It's not an escape from the world, it's a return to yourself. Think about how often we avoid stillness. The moment we have a free second, we reach for something. Our phone, a podcast, a playlist, a video. Silence has become uncomfortable. But here's the truth. When the mind is always filled with noise, there's no space for wisdom to enter. Stillness is where reflection happens. It's where we listen to the quiet signals we usually drown out. Our intuition, our values, our long-term perspective. When you remove distractions, you hear what's actually going on inside. That's why the wise schedule solitude, not by accident, but with intention. Marcus Aurelius, who was emperor of Rome, made time for stillness every day, writing in his journal, walking alone, sitting in silence. If the most powerful man in the world could make time to step back from it all, so can we. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means being present without reacting. You might take a slow walk without your phone. Sit by a window with a cup of tea. Watch your thoughts come and go like clouds passing. 5 minutes a day is enough to start. And then there's solitude, the deeper space. Time alone, not to numb out, but to connect inward. To ask yourself, how am I really doing? What do I need to face? Where am I out of alignment? The wise know that clarity doesn't come from scrolling or multitasking. It comes from sitting with yourself, fully, quietly, honestly. And while the world spins loudly, they protect this space. Because stillness isn't empty. It's where everything important begins. Habit number 3, live according to nature. Live according to nature. It's one of the core teachings in Stoicism, but what does it really mean? To the Stoics, nature wasn't just trees and rivers. Nature meant living in harmony with your own deepest principles, your rational mind, your role as a human being, and your connection to the larger whole. Marcus Aurelius said, "What is not good for the beehive cannot be good for the bee." In other words, living wisely means living with life, not against it. Let's break that down. First, to live according to nature is to live according to your rational nature. Unlike animals, we have the unique ability to reflect, to choose our responses, and to act based on reason, not just impulse or emotion. When we ignore that gift, we drift. When we lean into it, we align. We become grounded, purposeful. Second, it means accepting the nature of the world, its cycles, its unpredictability, its impermanence. The seasons change, people change. Life unfolds in ways we don't always control. The wise don't resist that, they flow with it. When setbacks come, they adapt. When loss happens, they grieve, but they also understand. This is nature. Nothing here is permanent, and nothing is promised. Third, it's about understanding your place in the larger whole. Stoics saw humans as part of a shared community. What you do matters, not just to you, but to others. So living wisely means acting with integrity, responsibility, and a deep sense of service. Your choices affect the hive. Wisdom means being aware of that. In today's world, living according to nature also means slowing down, eating real food, sleeping when it's dark, spending time outside, disconnecting from the artificial rhythm of constant alerts and reconnecting with what's real. There's wisdom in the body, in the breath, in the sunrise, but we rarely listen. So ask yourself, are my actions aligned with who I truly am? Or are they shaped by pressure, ego, or habit? Am I living in harmony with the natural flow of life, or constantly fighting against it? The wise don't force life, they follow it, and that simple shift brings a deep kind of peace. Habit number 4, focus only on what you can control. If there's one idea that runs through every Stoic teaching like a thread, it's this: some things are up to us and some things are not. That line comes from Epictetus, and it's the foundation of emotional strength, inner peace, and practical wisdom. Most people spend their lives reacting to what they can't control, trying to change other people, obsessing over outcomes, or worrying about what might happen tomorrow. It's exhausting. And the truth is, it doesn't work. The wise know this, so they simplify their focus. They draw a clear mental boundary between what belongs to them and what doesn't. What's in your control? Your thoughts, your actions, your values, your effort. That's it. What's outside of your control? Pretty much everything else. How others see you, how long things take, whether plans succeed, what people say or do, even your own body to some extent. Now that doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care strategically. You show up fully, but you let go of the parts you don't own. Let's say you're working on a big project. You can control your preparation, your attitude, your consistency. But you can't guarantee the outcome. If you obsess over the result, you'll stress yourself out. But if you focus on the process, you'll stay grounded. Ironically, this mindset usually leads to better results anyway. Or think about relationships. You can't control how someone else feels, but you can control how you listen, how honestly you speak, and how you show up. The rest, that's theirs to carry. Wise people check themselves daily with one simple question: is this within my control? If the answer is yes, they act with intention. If the answer is no, they release it. This habit doesn't just reduce stress, it creates clarity, focus, power. Epictetus used the image of an archer. You can aim carefully, train for years, and draw the bow with perfect form. But once the arrow leaves your fingers, wind, weather, and the movement of the target take over. All you control is the shot. And that's enough, because that's where freedom lives, in owning your choices and surrendering the rest. Habit number 5. Seek truth over comfort. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." That's the essence of this habit. The wise aren't chasing what's easy or pleasant. They're chasing what's true, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts. And in doing that, they grow stronger, sharper, more grounded. Most people, whether they realize it or not, avoid truth all the time. We stay in jobs we hate, relationships that drain us, routines that numb us, because facing the truth would require change. And change is scary. So we tell ourselves stories. It's not that bad. Maybe next year. This is just how life is. But wise people don't hide behind stories. They ask the hard questions. Where am I pretending not to know the truth? What am I avoiding that I need to face? Is this belief helping me or holding me back? The Stoics were brutally honest with themselves. Marcus Aurelius called it looking at things as they are, stripped of all the fiction. That means seeing life clearly. Not how you wish it was, not how someone told you it should be, but how it actually is. Maybe the truth is that you've been avoiding a conversation, or clinging to an identity that no longer fits, or numbing yourself instead of dealing with grief or fear. Facing those truths doesn't feel good in the moment, but it creates the space for growth, healing, and freedom. Comfort is seductive. It tells you to stay safe, stay small, stay the same. But the truth stretches you, and that stretch is where wisdom lives. So the next time you feel discomfort rising, the sting of feedback, the quiet voice of your gut telling you something's off, lean in. Ask what it's trying to show you. The wise don't run from that tension. They mine it for clarity, because comfort fades. But truth sets the foundation for a life you don't have to run from. Habit number 6. Reflect daily. At the end of a long day ruling an empire, Marcus Aurelius didn't pour a drink or scroll through distractions. He picked up a pen, and he wrote, not for an audience, not for fame, but to reflect. That's what his book, Meditations, really is, a journal, a place where he questioned himself, corrected himself, and reminded himself of what mattered. He didn't assume he had all the answers. He searched for them, one page at a time. This is the quiet superpower of the wise, daily reflection. They don't let days pass in a blur. They pause, they review, they learn. In a fast-moving world, most people go to bed exhausted but unchanged. They repeat the same patterns day after day without ever asking, "Is this working?" But wise people know an unexamined day is a wasted opportunity. Even 5 minutes of reflection can change the direction of a life. Here's how it can look. At the end of your day, ask yourself 3 simple questions. 1. What did I do well today? 2. Where did I fall short? 3. What can I do better tomorrow? That's it. You don't need a fancy journal or a perfect routine, just honesty. This practice builds self-awareness, and with self-awareness comes self-mastery. It also helps you reconnect with your values. Were you kind today? Were you present? Did you choose courage over comfort? Without reflection, those questions fade into the background. With reflection, they become your compass. And here's the thing. Reflection isn't about guilt or shame. It's about growth. It's about seeing your patterns clearly so you can shape them consciously. The wise aren't perfect. They're just more aware. They fail too. But they fail with their eyes open. And that makes all the difference. Daily reflection turns life into a classroom. It transforms every mistake into a lesson, every win into a standard, every moment into meaning. Over time, it doesn't just change how you live, it changes who you are. Habit number 7. Practice voluntary discomfort. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most powerful voices, once wrote to a friend, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This wasn't a challenge for the sake of suffering. It was training, mental strength conditioning, a way to confront fear, strip away excess, and develop a quiet kind of courage that the modern world rarely encourages. You see, most people avoid discomfort at all costs. We crank the heat when it's cold. We upgrade, replace, indulge, even when we don't need to. Over time, this convenience becomes a cage. We begin to fear anything outside our comfort zone. But wise people do the opposite. They voluntarily lean into challenge. Take cold showers, for example. Not because it's trendy, but because choosing discomfort, even in small doses, builds resilience. Or fasting, not as a diet trend, but to test your relationship with hunger and control. Or even saying no when you're used to people-pleasing. These moments, though small, are powerful. They remind you, I don't need everything I think I do. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in Rome. He could afford anything. And yet, he practiced poverty regularly, eating cheap food, sleeping on the floor, not out of self-punishment, but self-preparation. Because if you can thrive with less, you become unshakable when things are taken from you. The takeaway? Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's the gateway. A path to deeper self-trust, independence, and calm. The wise don't wait for hardship to test them. They test themselves first. Of all the habits we've explored, there's one that stands above the rest. Not because it's the most profound, but because it's the most practical, the most immediate, the most freeing. Focus only on what you can control. This single shift can change the texture of your life overnight. It takes you from overwhelmed to focused, from reactive to intentional, from powerless to peaceful. Think about how much energy we waste every day, worrying about what people think, chasing perfection, fearing the future. And yet none of that is in our hands. The wise don't play that game. They wake up each morning and ask, "What's mine to do today?" That's where they put their time. That's where they put their heart. You don't control the world, but you do control how you show up in it. That's where wisdom begins, not in some far-off ideal, but in the small, consistent choice to live with clarity. Let the rest go. Come back to what's yours. That's not giving up. It's waking up. And from that place, everything changes. Wisdom isn't a destination. It's a daily discipline, a way of seeing, choosing, and living that transforms how you move through the world. And Stoic philosophy gives us the blueprint. We started with a simple question. What sets wise people apart? It's not luck, not age, not intellect. It's habits, intentional, practiced habits that build strength from within. The habit of seeking discomfort to become resilient. The habit of emotional control to stay grounded. The habit of stillness to hear your own voice again. The habit of living in alignment with your nature, not someone else's script. The habit of focusing only on what you can control and letting go of the rest. The habit of seeking truth, even when it's hard. And the habit of reflecting daily to grow with awareness. Each of these is simple, but together they become a philosophy for life, a way to stay steady in chaos, clear in confusion, strong in silence. This is the path the Stoics walked, and it's still here, for anyone willing to slow down and take the first step. Now that you've seen all 7 habits, take a moment to reflect. Which one spoke to you the most? Which one are you already practicing? And which one do you need the most right now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear which habit you're bringing into your life. And if you want to keep exploring Stoic philosophy, check out the next video. It might be exactly what your mind's been needing.